Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be, and welcome to a post on physics. It's called Translators Wanted. Heroes and artists need not apply. Whenever a paradox arises in a physics problem, it does not indicate that there is a complicated mystery that you need to rationalize away with mathematics. It means that you need to think outside of the box that defines your problem. That is the sole heuristic purpose of teaching students about paradoxes. But many teachers have missed this lesson. Instead of encouraging students to think long and hard about the language they are using, many teachers instead offer stories of scientific heroism and artistic representations of invisible things. This is something I've written a lot about with respect to relativity. And here I will extend this train of thought by translating an introductory problem from electronics into the many languages of physics. There's a lot of redundancy in physics language, and it is designed to compartmentalize the people who do physics. In the two-capacitor paradox, when you close a switch after charging one of two capacitors, the energy in the circuit will do one of three things, depending on the approximations you make. It will magically maintain coherence and slosh around the circuit indefinitely. It will reach a steady state with half of the energy present in the initial system, or it will oscillate between these two outcomes. But when it reaches a steady state, where has half of the energy gone? None of the elements in the circuit were specified to have any resistance, so it couldn't have turned into heat. The languages of modern physics offer some strange abstractions to explain the situation of what happens over an instant versus what happens over a time step. Did virtual particles borrow the energy from the quantum vacuum in the capacitors? Did dark matter or dark energy magically appear? Did tiny black holes or magnetic monopoles eat up the energy? Given the complex system of redundancies within modern physics languages, many answers can be true at the same time, but not all of them are. What is certain is that even if you have no resistance, you can't have infinite current leap instantaneously across the capacitor at t equals 0, and the wires must have some inductance. But what do these words mean in the language of relativity, quantum mechanics, magnetic monopoles, black holes, Maxwell's equations, and dark energy? When current jumps from the cathode to the anode of a capacitor, it is akin to reduced length contraction of the charges in the plates such that they overlap in space. It is equivalent to positrons tunneling between the plates just as electrons tunnel through a barrier. It is equivalent to holes being punctured in space itself, allowing sparks to flow along an arc of magnetic monopoles between the plates. It is equivalent to dark matter, black holes materializing between the plates, eating dark energy and ejecting it into miniature stars via ultra-powerful jets in their cores. And when current experiences its inductance, it is akin to length contraction of the charges within the wires, the sudden temporary appearance of new electrons within the wire, slowed current due to flow lines curling around magnetic monopoles within the wire, dark antimatter eating up dark energy and matter in vortices with little black hole mouths. This is supposed to be a little bit funny. Some languages sound stupider than others, but to many subsegments of the community, stupid sells. It is a good recruiting tool to be mysterious and use dark concepts. Clearly, trying to think in all of these inconsistent languages at the same time is not terribly productive, but it might be helpful to illustrate the approximations each language makes. It might also show you what is needed in physics today is not a brand new theory of everything. What is needed is a generation of adept translators who can untangle the mess made during the past century. Popular scientists will never tell you this because they thrive off of messy mystery and redundancy and confusion and duals, which is the word that physicists use to express when one theoretical framework is equivalent with another. They say that it is dual with another framework. Why on earth did I decide to conflate particles, charges, electrons, positrons, vortices, matter, antimatter, magnetic monopoles, stars, and black holes? I did this because I believe it is important for students who are drawn to paradoxes to think long and hard about how, when you adopt a relativistic framework or relativistic perspective and you turn around and face the opposite direction, everything that you previously called an electron becomes a positron, matter becomes antimatter, and giant black holes become stars. However, if you think in more absolute terms, stars remain stars when you turn your back to them. This perspective maintains object permanence, just as you did when you understood that your mother didn't disappear when she played peekaboo with you. As in most mysterious paradoxes in physics, the devil is in the discrete approximations of continuous systems made within Lorentzian Maxwell's equations in relative Riemannian space, rather than the continuous approximations of discrete systems made with Galilean Maxwell's equations in absolute Cartesian space. For example, from the perspective of general relativity in Riemannian space, light bends light. A light beam will deflect another light beam. That happens in general relativity. Light traveling in the same direction will not deflect itself. But when light beams are traveling in opposite directions, a beam will be deflected by 4 times more than a mass with a similar energy would have deflected that ray of light. Meanwhile, from the perspective of quantum mechanics in flat Cartesian space, light doesn't bend light. The principle of superposition tells you that waves of light have no effect on one another. They simply add together and travel through each other with no deflection. One can make a kludge to resolve this discrepancy by adding a caveat that the principle of superposition is only valid in the vicinity of matter, so that you use one set of equations for things that are close to matter and another set of equations for more free space. But I think that the superior solution is to avoid kludges and paradoxes entirely, by strictly maintaining separate languages and coordinate systems and never allowing them to mix. For example, we know that when we pick up an object with our hand, it's the same thing as picking up an object with our fingers. You might say that the hand is one coordinate system and the fingers are another coordinate system. But it's the same thing. And you can't, when you start talking about things, you can't mix them. So it is helpful to understand the separation of languages when studying the two-capacitor paradox, because you can use electric circuits or harmonic oscillators to represent almost any physical system you can dream up. Consider that the physics behind all of the following systems is the same. The heat absorbed by empty space, described in 1900. Kelvin's vortices, van der Waals force, Drude's skin effect, all from 1900. Then you have Nernst's classical zero-point energy in 1915, Einstein's vacuum energy, 1916, Schottky's shot noise, 1918, Bohr's virtual particles, 1924, Heisenberg's uncertainty, 1927, Dirac's Zitterbewegung, 1930, the Lamb shift, 1947, the Casimir effect, 1948. And then you've got the cosmic microwave background in 1963, which you might argue has brought you full circle back to 1900, because if you look at it from the proper perspective, it is identical to the heat absorbed by empty space described back in 1900 analytically. So, when you see that physics keeps saying the same thing over and over and over again in slightly different languages, you see that all of these things are caused by the same basic physics, which is a noisy, invisible background vibration for which we cannot know the initial conditions. We see its effects all around us, yet you can't directly measure it without disturbing it. It's because it's like two sides of a mirror, the object and the space. This background vibration drives all of the fundamental forces. They're like resonances in a frequency comb. But because no one ever sets aside their pride to work in a common, simplified language, the fundamental forces can never be unified. A new fashion is to add a fifth dimension in a Kaluza-Klein theory, or spin foam, or quantum gravity theory, and say that the fundamental forces work through this dimension in a loop. But what is that all about? If you don't know what causes what, you just add a dimension. And I mean, I've written some other articles on how these theories of gravity are really simple when you look at them from the proper perspective, and that if complexity is a form of laziness, physics is incredibly lazy, because all of these people keep rewriting these theories again and again and again in their own private languages. That's just lazy. Why do we spend billions on researching this stuff and training young people to think and speak in a mess of hyper-redundant languages? After all, tens of thousands of these people are produced each year. I mean, physics students. Maybe someone with money thinks that we will figure out a way to magically extract energy from the vacuum, or they just want to keep these people busy. No one has ever been able to extract energy from a random fluctuation before, but that hasn't stopped us from trying since in the post-war era. Maybe we will find a new giant resonance which is easy to exploit with the appropriate tools. We just need to keep trying. I'm not sure if I'm being sarcastic here. Maybe they are just trying to keep curious people busy so that they don't build bombs in their basements, or so that they don't start cults or become serial killers. In any case, I think we need to start teaching physicists about the importance of epistemology and about the lessons that paradoxes are supposed to convey. You know, these statements that the math is the reality, or the paradoxes are not paradoxical if you just do the math, or these are not approximations, that our rationalizations are perfect. This is all very damaging to young people's ability to think. And I think that the real purpose of physics is teaching people to think. It's like philosophy, but it's teaching people to think in a more quantitative manner. But judging from the physics curriculum today, it seems to be designed to teach people how not to think, or to break their ability to think rationally, and to basically push them over a cliff into abandoning themselves to faith in equations that they may barely understand, faith in mathematical models. For example, quantum mechanics, you have a mathematical model that tells you that things are literally uncertain, but it doesn't tell you why. And if you think about the idea that things are uncertain because they're literally moving, but that we can't directly measure that movement, that keeps a student grounded in his basic understanding of reality. But if you insist that he detach himself from that, he's going to have trouble thinking about other things. And I think there's a lot of evidence that this has happened. One of the biggest, most dramatic approximations we've been able to come up with in physics is the concept of a black hole that could swallow our world in one big gulp. But is that what we are really looking at when we see a star dancing around a dark spot in the night sky? Or have our minds been cracked by the repetition of stories about black holes? So perhaps there is a crack in everything, as that song goes. That's how the light gets in. That's how space gets its energy, density, or viscosity, through cracks in a sea of negative energy particles that can be modeled in a snapshot as chains of positive energy particles, or tiny black holes that disappear as quickly as they are created. You can call them virtual particles if you like. But I think we need to somehow fix the language of physics so that it's not so degenerated and fragmented. So that students don't get confused and wonder if we're making little black holes with our particle colliders, or if we're making black holes when a nuclear bomb explodes, or when lightning strikes, we certainly create black holes in fiction, and we create metaphorical black holes when we encourage people to study things that are pointless. Some might say that our obsession with these light-eating concepts is a sort of death wish. The worst thing I think that could happen would be if people sharing this death wish get in that mentality of, who was that? Tom Lehrer, who's saying, we will all go together when we go. Just this sort of fatalist, it's going to happen, every disaster is coming, because disaster is a product of our own making. I really do believe that enough time has passed since the World Wars that we should all start getting over our childish obsessions with black holes and the end of the world. Like emotions, destruction is localized, it's a big planet, and it's transient. Creation and destruction are two sides of the same coin. Order disappears on one length scale only to reemerge on another. So we have right now this coronavirus which will probably destroy ordered systems on one length scale. Maybe it'll destroy banks, who knows? but that order will inevitably reemerge on another length scale. As creativity burns through our world, leaving destruction in its wake. If you are an adept translator, you will be able to bring order to our disordered physics languages by seeing how something as simple as a yin-yang symbol can be used to represent the two-capacitor paradox. And I think that that is exactly what physics needs today. It needs adept translators who can reduce the redundancy of the language. For goodness sake, we do not need another hero riding to the world's rescue with a brand new theory of everything. And this frustration with physics culture is why I wrote my novels, and I encourage you to take a look at them. I think you'd find them funny and enjoyable. So thank you for watching. Until next time.